Hello, welcome. Yes, do Aston Martin have a rocket ship on their hands for 2026? Oh, I've been going down the rabbit hole today, the entire Aston Martin rabbit hole. You're going to get a bit of a history lesson. We're going to go into what Adrian Newey's been saying in his latest interview. We're going to be talking about what Cardle's been saying, what Cowell's been saying. We're going to do a head-to-head between Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. It's gonna get interesting. I'm gonna say a quick hello to the chat before we get into it. Hey Kyle, hey Gemma. Gemma, I was like 30 seconds late. You can't be calling me out on that, surely. Hey Motorsport fan, thank you for the heads up on the. I've been down the Aston Martin rabbit hole today because of you. Right, so we are going to start at the beginning, and I mean the very beginning. So I want to talk a little bit about Aston Martin racing. Now, we all know that our favourite daddy-o, Lawrence Stroll, is the owner of Aston Martin Racing and the owner of Aston Martin. But how did we get here? How did Aston Martin even end up on the grid? So I want to give you a little history lesson. So Aston Martin originally debuted in F1 all the way back in 1959, but they only stayed in Formula One for 2 seasons. Terrible time, didn't score any points and dropped away from Formula One. So the next time we see Aston Martin was because of this guy, because of Lawrence Stroll. So how did Lawrence Stroll end up with Aston Martin? So he rebranded Racing Point because he led a consortium to buy Force India in August 2018. And then he led an investment consortium to buy Aston Martin in January 20. But that wasn't the start of Aston. That's not the lineage of the team. I need to take you back even further. So let me take you all the way back to 1991. Okay, because in 1991, a wily young fox, or younger fox, God rest his soul, Eddie Jordan, set up Jordan Racing. And he had that race team for 15 years. And he won 4 Grand Prix. Damon Hill won 1, the Belgian Grand Prix in 1998. Heinz-Harald Frentzen won the French Grand Prix and the Italian Grand Prix. I think it was 1999. And then Fisichella won the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2003, which is quite apt. We're coming up to the Brazilian Grand Prix next. So that's the birthplace of the Aston Martin team that we have right now. Was born in 1991. 2006, it became Midland Racing. 2007 became Spiker. 2008 to 2018, it became Force India, with what lots of you will know. Then Lawrence Stroll rebranded it to Racing Point. And when he took over Aston Martin, boom, 2021, Aston Martin Racing. How do you like your history lesson so far, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully you're enjoying your history lesson so far. Hey DT. Yeah, so that's how Aston Martin became the Aston Martin that we know today. Now, what has Lawrence Stroll done? He's brought in the man, the legend that we all know as the greatest car designer in Formula One history, and it's this guy. It's Adrian Newey. Now, Adrian Newey was brought in March this year, but he's coming in as an owner. He owns a percentage of the racing team. But his remit was purely the 2026 car. Has he helped with the 25 car? I'm sure he's given some tidbits, but probably not so much. I think if he was working on the 25 car, we would have seen bigger improvements in that car throughout the season. So yes, Adrian Newey. And just to show his receipts, I think I need to show you. These are Newey's results in his career. So hopefully you can see that. It might be quite small. 1992, he won the World Drivers' Championship with Nigel Mansell and the Team World Constructors with Williams. 93, he won the Drivers' Championship with Alain Prost and with Williams won the Constructors. In 94, they didn't have the winning driver for the 94 Championship, but Williams did win the Constructors. 96, they had Damon Hill as the World Driver Champion, and Williams again won the Constructors. 97, Jacques Villeneuve won the Driver Championship. Williams again won the Constructors. 1998, Newey moved over to McLaren, and guess what? First year at McLaren, Mika Hakkinen wins the World Driver Championship and McLaren win the Constructors. 1999, Mika Hakkinen wins the World Drivers Championship and they didn't win the Constructors that year. 2010, he went to Red Bull as Christian Horner's MVP signing. Horner went and said it himself, the best thing he ever did was sign Adrian Newey. Because in 2010, Sebastian Vettel won the World Drivers Championship for Red Bull. Obviously they won the Constructors. 2011, again, Sebastian Vettel wins the Drivers. Red Bull wins the Constructors. 2012, Sebastian Vettel wins the Drivers. Red Bull wins the Constructors. 2013, Sebastian Vettel wins the Drivers and Red Bull wins the Constructors. And did I say 2013? Same again. So as you can see, a very dominant era for Red Bull. Adrian Newey designed that car. 2021, Max Verstappen, World Drivers Champion. No Constructors that year. 2022, Max Verstappen, World Drivers Champion. Red Bull win the Constructors. 2023, Max Verstappen, World Drivers Champion. Red Bull win the Constructors. And 2024, Max Verstappen, World Drivers Champion. That's 14 World Driver Championships and 12 Constructor Championships. Without doubt, hands down, Adrian Newey is the most valuable person in Formula One and has been since the freaking 90s, right? How has it taken him all this time to get shares in a Formula One team is beyond me. But he does now. He's a part owner of Aston Martin along with Lawrence Stroll and his consortium. So, Adrian Newey, what has he been saying today? Well, let me bring you to a chat that he's been having F1 Oversteer. So what he's been talking about is that Adrian Newey is sensing a sense of deja vu with Aston Martin from his time at Red Bull. Now, what he's talking about is when he went to Red Bull, there was a lack of belief that the team could actually win a world championship because they hadn't done it yet. And he's sensing the same Aston Martin. So one of the big things he's doing apart from designing the car is restructuring the way the team think, right? And more than that, he was asked the question on James Allen's F1 podcast. He said, how does it feel to be Aston Martin compared to when you first joined Red Bull more than 20 years ago? He said, it's difficult to judge because of this big regulation change. Everybody has a bit of a reset, which we know, and chances are that the top teams this year will be the top teams next year. Very humble, not dropping any bombs there. But then he says, in typical Newey fashion, but occasionally there's a bit of disruption. It happened last time there was a big regulation change to an extent in 2009 where Ferrari and McLaren, who were the big ones in 2008, floundered and Brawn and Red Bull came forward. So it does happen. And by and large, the same teams tend to be on top. I think the main point is that you're asking how it's going. So then Newey just takes away from that. He drops that little bomb and going, hey, listen, top teams, normally at the top, but don't forget, big regulation change is when the opportunities come for the others. But then he moves it on because he's a wily old fox and he says, you're really asking how's it going? He said, well, the truth is I have no idea because of this reset. You don't know whether you're doing good, bad or indifferent relative to the opposition because you have no knowledge of what they are doing. But I think also on the how's it going question, I think this is also the culture thing. So Red Bull, when I started, was the ashes of a team of Jaguar that had been under Ford management for many years and didn't have any success. Don't even think they had a podium. So under a Jaguar badge, had little success, and so people started to lose belief that they could ever win a race. And once you stop believing that you can do that, then everything goes wrong because complacency sets in, laziness sets in, lack of self-belief creeps in, and if you're not careful, blame culture can set in as well. And so that was quite a difficult thing to overturn at Red Bull. I won't say too much, but there is a bit of deja vu here, Aston Martin. So he is tackling the mindset of a team that haven't won anything yet. But he's done it before. He saw it at Red Bull and he's doing it again. Now, because he is literally the MVP of Formula One, when you sign Adrian Newey, I mean, even above signing Fernando Alonso, right? it changes everything. All of a sudden, everything is possible. The person who's telling us who's leading the team in a direction we believe in. So if he believes we can win, we believe we can win. And all that mindset coming throughout the whole team is changing. Now, that's the airy-fairy man management kind of super relevant, but, you know, all right, Tony, so why are they building a rocket ship? Well, this is where it gets, where I'm convinced that they are. So when we look at Enrico Cardell, who is a brilliant engineer, proved himself at Ferrari. They've brought him over. He has been waxing lyrical about what it's like to work with Adrian Newey, and he has been gushing about it. He's basically saying that working with Newey is like working with multiple departments, from design, aero, man management, engine, driver, voodoo. Like, literally, because he's been in the sport so long, where the teams were only 20 or 30 people, and now they're like up to 1,000 people work at that new facility, the new Aston Martin facility, which is amazing. But with Adrian Newey, it's like he has this absolute belief that an attention to detail that is out of this world. But more importantly than that, it's what Damon Hill was saying about Adrian Newey is, when we saw interviews with Adrian Newey just a few months ago, Damon Hill commented and said, because Adrian Newey was saying, but Adrian Newey basically said, when I first saw the regulations for 2026, it didn't leave much room for design. However, on further inspection, I can see there's lots of opportunity for design. And what Damon Hill said in his comment was, because he knows Adrian Newey very well. He built him a championship winning car at Williams. He said, that's Adrian. He's found something. He has found a loophole. And then from our man on the ground, from Tubby George, our man in the paddock, we've heard all sorts of crazy stuff that he's been doing, from cockpit design to suspension, just minor details which could be worth a tenth here and a tenth there, even down to the way that the cockpit's going to be managed with the actual drivers. I mean, it is crazy stuff that he's doing. And then we marry that with Honda. Now, the works agreement they've got with Honda as the exclusive engine supplier to Aston Martin basically means they've got one of the most experienced, successful F1 engine manufacturers as a bolt-on to purely integrate to an Aston Martin car. And this is where Cardell comes in, because Cardell's working on that integration and the chassis. That's his main job. And he says working with Honda is literally like working with an in-house engine manufacturer, because you can make a request and work with them, and they can meet that request without compromising the other teams that they need to supply the engines for. So they've got this perfect marriage and working relationship with Honda. And also, that Honda engine, from any data that we've seen, looks like it's absolutely going to be comparable to the to the Mercedes power unit, and it's going to be a rocket ship. So if you've got a big tick with the power unit, you've got a big tick with the car design as a whole, you've now got a big tick from Cardell, who is literally, his main job is just chassis and integration of the Honda power unit. And you got Fernando Alonso, right? Who is even proving right now in a not very good Aston Martin car that he is getting max value, and really more, actually adding value to a car that isn't very, very good. Because you've also got to factor in the 2026 car is active aero. Even though we are getting rid of the ground effect era, the floor is going to still be vital to, and the chassis and the floor especially, to the aerodynamics of the car. The active aero is going to be crazy. You've got an active aero front wing, active aero rear wing. The tyres are a lot smaller. The brakes are a lot smaller. You've got regenerative braking, a lot of lift and coast. Like, everything's different, but the cars are going to be a lot lighter, and they're going to be a lot faster in a straight line. Toto Wolff has been saying up to 400 kilometers an hour, which is insane. So if you are managing such a huge regulation change, there's only one man you'd want to put all of that money and development into. It's Adrian Newey. Plus the fact this is the first time he's owned a team. Surely this is going to be his swan song in Formula One, his best work. And he's been working solidly without any distraction of the 25 car on the 26 car. And Cardle's working in the office directly next to Adrian Newey. And he said, he said, if I have to mention one thing, it's how uncompromised Newey is, how driven he is with achieving his goal without doing any compromise anywhere. I mean, zero compromise, pushing all the stuff, regardless of money, to perfection. And all the signs are that the team are super happy. They've got a brand new home. They've got the best wind tunnel out of anyone in F1. Like, it's insanely good. The only problem they've got is it is a full-size wind tunnel. The problem is, because of the regulations, they have to use the 60% models. But they could, in theory, set that wind tunnel up for a full-size car, which would be crazy. Not they're allowed to do that. So basically, Cardle goes on to say, but it's more than this, because when he realizes something, he has already in mind how to achieve it. So if someone in the organisation should struggle for achieving it, he is supportive on providing all the details needed for what he has in mind to make it doable. I mean, all of the news that's coming out from Newey is unbelievable. And his comments, I mean, even Newey's comments himself, if I can pull them up, are absolutely positive. Because he is such a humble guy. You've got to join up the dots. And people that know him basically know when Newey is onto something. Because what he doesn't want to do is let the cat out of the bag, because the FIA regulations for 2026 haven't even been finalised yet. So what he doesn't want to do is start letting things slip and get nerfed by the FIA. But what he did say as well is that the grid in Melbourne in 2026 is when we're going to see the most diverse range of Formula One cars, because every one of those teams is interpreting those regulations right now in putting them into 2026 car without seeing each other's car. So no one knows what works. So there is a genuine chance that there could be a 4-second gap. I mean, between first and last, and you're going to be in the 107% rule again. So yeah, it's absolutely insane what they're doing there. And it does bring us on nicely. I'm going to come to the chat actually, because I want to bring us on to the drivers in just a second, but I want to catch up with the chat. So, hey, Nosa J. Hey, Kyle. Yes, Kyle sounds like he watched the video. I watched a lot. I went right down the rabbit hole in Aston Martin today. Motorsports fan says those statements from you are fascinating and also realistic. I really like that he said just to lower expectations due to the unknowns of the 26 regulation change. But he also wants to lower expectations because under promise over deliver is definitely what he's going for, because that is literally Adrian Newey. He didn't want to announce to everyone, hey, we've got the car. He doesn't want the fine-tooth comb trying to get the clues from what they're doing. He doesn't want to give anything away, and quite rightly so. He needs that lead time. Everyone, if he's got it right, which I'm pretty sure he will have, everyone is going to be copying his stuff anyway, right? And I love the fact I agree, Motorsport fan. I love the fact that he is pushing Aston Martin in a way that I think that maybe Andy Cowell can do, but not to the extent that Adrian Newey can do. It's like anything, isn't it? When your mate wants to give you, you've got a mate your mate Bob, who's a builder, and he wants to give you advice on crypto, Bitcoin, financial investments. And like, listen, Bob, you can build me an house, but I'm not going to take your advice on investments. Thank you very much. And it's the same thing. It's like, if Adrian Newey comes into your team and says, listen, you want to do this, we're going to change the cockpit, we're going to do this, and you're there going, I'm not sure, but it's Adrian Newey, and he's won that many world titles that you go, all right, let's go, 100% in, I'm all in. And that's the effect, that's the Newey effect, and it's only him that can have it. I mean, even Lawrence Stroll, as the owner of the team, can't have that effect because he hasn't got the CV that Adrian Newey has. He hasn't won the world titles that Newey has. So even when, so you can always sort of push back on, well, I don't know if I know you're the boss, but I don't know if I agree. And you sort of like think, well, maybe your opinion's better. In this case, 100%, Adrian Newey's opinion is better than yours, all right? There's no question. Adrian Newey knows best. There's no question about it. So yeah, I think, and then Kyle says, do you think when Newey and Horner had dinner the other day that Newey was bragging about being an owner? Hell yeah! Well, I don't think he's like that. I don't think he's an overtly gregarious, bragging person. But do I think that Newey being under sort of the Horner thumb for all that time, and there might be a little part of him that probably gets satisfaction that it's his name's over the door now, right? As an owner, he might be quite gracious about it. But do I think he'd feel pretty good about that? Yeah, I do. Kyle says, we'll see if F1 likes the interpretation of the rules. Can Barcelona? Now that's the real question, Kyle. This is a thing that I think Newey's careful of, because Newey is able to, the word exploit seems distasteful, but it is what you have to do. You have to kind of find an edge within the regulations. And yeah, if there is a loophole, then every team will be looking to exploit a grey area that's to their advantage, an interpretation of the rule. Newey's no different. So yeah, of course he'll be looking at ways to maximize design and exploit the opportunity that presents itself within those regs, 100%. But then it's how the FIA react to that. Because if Newey does build a rocket ship and he's 2 seconds a lap quicker than the next best team, and it is just a joke, then the FIA will step in and do something. Do you know what I mean? Like they will. They're not just going. You know, you've got Lance Stroll lapping everybody. I don't think they'll have it. Yeah, Kyle, Stroll. Listen, Stroll. We should do predictions. Stroll will get 5 podiums next year, at least. I'm going to go Stroll 5 podiums. Stroll 5 podiums next year. That's what I think. Crackeye, the legend that is Lance Stroll. Listen, Adrian Newey might just make him a legend. I'm telling you. The thought of Stroll in a faster car, the carnage could be unreal. Oh, Crackeye, come on. If he's at the front, who's he going to crash into? Right? And he is quick over a lap. I keep saying it over and over again. Although we're going to go to the head-to-head, actually. I say he's quick over a lap. Some of these results will shock you when I go into the Alonso Stroll head-to-head. But some of them are actually surprisingly good for Stroll, actually. So we are gonna go through that. A wrecking ball with speed, Kyle says. Newey's definitely the most important person in designing the whole car for the team. But Andy Cowell, in my opinion, could also be really vital with leadership, instructing the team. And did you know, motorsport fan, Andy Cowell is also brilliant on power units. Yeah, seriously, he's a good man manager, and he seems to have a good balance and a calmness about him, and actually a little bit of a steeliness to him as well. But power units, Andy Cowell is a thing. He's a great person to have with regards to engines. But crucially, with the preparations and developments of the Honda engine, considering the track record when he was managing the Mercedes power unit in 2025, I mean 2014 to 2021. Yeah. Well, exactly. I should have read that a minute ago. Yeah. So Kyle's going on to my prediction. Stroll 0 podiums, Alonso 5. I think Alonso's going to get at least, I think 5 race wins I think Alonso will be 10 podiums minimum next year. I'm going with 10 podiums for Alonso, 5 for Stroll. I really do think Alonso's got a great chance of winning the World Championship in this car. I've got so much faith in Newey and so much faith in. It's all just been the perfect storm. Everything's happened for Aston Martin at the right time. They've got an amazing new facility, finished and built. They've had Newey on a car for a year, designing the 2026 car without any distractions. Plus, he's so motivated to do his best work as an owner of the team. They've got they've got every tool, every resource, every top. They've brought in such top people, I think, to the team that, you know, I just can't see them not being at the front. And Fernando Alonso, it's not like we're watching Fernando Alonso every Grand Prix going, Jesus, Fernando, time to retire. You've lost it. We're always impressed with what he is doing in that Aston Martin, which we all know is subpar comparatively to the rest of the field. So I think there's a perfect storm here for Aston Martin to be that disruptor from the current top teams. I definitely believe it. So I know you're really waiting for this. We want to get into the head-to-head, don't we? So that's why Adrian Newey is MVP. 100% MVP. I hope you like a little history lesson as well about Aston Martin. So here we go. Now, this is the bit you might be surprised about. So let's take a look. Hopefully you can see this graphic I prepared for us a little earlier. Here we go. So we're going head to head. Lance Stroll versus Alonso. Now, I'm going to start at the top. So 2025 points. Okay. Lance Stroll has scored 32 points. I'm going to double check this actually because I want to make sure I've done this. So Lance Stroll is currently on 32 points. Yes. And Fernando Alonso is on 37 points. So only 5 points in it between the two drivers. Are you surprised by that? So it's just 5 points between Alonso and Stroll. So all you Stroll bashers, come on. So that's not a bad stat for Stroll, to be fair. Grand Prix results. So we've had 8 point scoring results for Lance Stroll, 12 for Fernando Alonso. This is where Fernando Alonso obviously takes Stroll to school a little bit. Grand Prix qualifying. Fernando Alonso has qualified better than Stroll in all 20 races, right? Okay. Granted, that is a big stat. But Fernando Alonso has won, so out of the 20 races, Fernando Alonso has finished 12 times. Sorry, so the head-to-head, Fernando Alonso has beat Stroll 12 times and Stroll has beat Alonso 8 times. So isn't that interesting? So in Grand Prix results, Alonso has beat Stroll 12 times and Stroll has beat Alonso 8 times. Yet, in the qualifying results, Alonso has out-qualified Stroll 20 times. None of them had any Grand Prix wins. None of them had any Grand Prix poles. None of them had any podiums. The best finishers, Lance Stroll's best finish was P6. Fernando Alonso's best finish was P5. Retirements, you're absolutely right, Kyle. Fernando Alonso has retired 5 times. And Lance Stroll has not retired at all. No one's had any fastest laps. Lance Stroll's had 1 withdrawal. Grand Prix points finishes. Now, I think this is quite impressive, even for the Stroll-Fernando mix here. Stroll has had 5 Grand Prix point-scoring Grand Prix, and Fernando Alonso has had 8. It's not crazy different, is it? I mean, obviously, Alonso's got more, but Lance Stroll's not miles behind. Sprint results, Lance Stroll has beaten Fernando Alonso 3 times. Fernando Alonso has not beaten Lance Stroll in a sprint result. Sprint qualifying, Lance Stroll has beat Fernando Alonso once, but Fernando Alonso has beat Lance Stroll 3 times. No one's had a sprint win, no one's had a sprint pole, no one's had a sprint podium, and both of them have had a sprint retirement. So I think when we look at these results, and when we think about how well Fernando is doing, it always comes down, it's because of that qualifying stat, isn't it? That Fernando, over 1 lap in qualifying, has literally taken Stroll to school in every single race. But when you actually look at results, race results, it isn't that far apart. And for Lance Stroll to be sat on 32 points and Fernando Alonso to be on 37 points, it's not as bad as you think. Kyle says, but look at who Stroll is competing with at the bottom, Alpine, Haas and Sauber. Look, I know. And speaking of that, let's just take a quick look at how close are the team standings, because like you say, the team standings are pretty close. Aston Martin are on 69 points. They are 3 points behind Racing Bulls. And they are only 7 points ahead of Haas. And only 9 points ahead of Kick. So really, Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Haas, and Kick are all competing for that 6th place. And the 4 races left, it could all change around. I don't think they care too. I mean, look, if you kick Sauber and the prize money's like currently at 30 million and you could get it up to 60 million, extra 30 million. But then again, they are going to be an Audi Works team. So are they bothered about the extra 30? Everyone would like the extra 30 million. Obviously, it goes up at like 10 million for from 9th to 6th. You've got a 10 million jump per position. So, well, of course, everyone liked the extra 10 million, and I'm sure the team employees would like the money because that's where their bonuses are coming from. But yeah, it's actually really close in that midfield. I don't think Fernando Alonso really gives a shit about this season, if I'm honest. I don't really think Lance Stroll cares too much about this season. I'm sure they want to help the team achieve the highest possible constructors finish, just for the extra money into the team, because believe it or not, Aston Martin don't have tons of money. Lawrence Stroll was actually looking for some sort of investment. He didn't want Horner's money though. He didn't want Horner's 100 million, but he was actually looking for some sort of investment. So every 10 million matters at Aston Martin at the moment. So obviously, I think the guys are going to try and help the constructors win that. But from a driver's point of view, they know that neither of them are where they want to be. Nobody wants to be freaking, Lance Stroll P14 and Alonso P12. Like they don't give a shit about that. Season's over for them in that regard. But the 2026 car is important. And I thought what was very interesting, Andy Cowell was talking about both drivers. And he said the one thing that was absolutely remarkable about Fernando Alonso is that the feedback he gives the team is so valuable. He said the first time he sat in an Aston Martin car, he said he got out of the car, some negative, some positive, but he was bang on the money. And he said the main thing we do here at Aston Martin is listen to the drivers. And this is going to annoy a few of you because he also said in the same paragraph, and I'm sure Motorsport fan will back me up because he watched the same video, that he also said, and Lance Stroll gives brilliant feedback to the team also. So even though Lance Stroll does not like to talk in interviews at all, and he's really alienated the F1 press, he did, according to Cowell, he said that Lance Stroll gives great feedback for the development of the car. So there you go. So all you Lance Stroll bashers, apparently he's been very, very useful. So all of this narrative plays in to the 2026 season and the Rocketship theory that they've got on their hands. And yeah, Kyle, stop it. Lawrence loves this show. You're gonna ruin my invite to Aston Martin. You are. Kyle says Stroll's feedback. That wall is hard. Stop it. You get me. Don't. Crackite says would love to Stroll win the first race just to see Alonso's reaction. Do you know what? I'm here for it as well. Imagine if like Lance Stroll is just the new regs and new cars just suit him really well. He's matured. Because I think what it is with Lance Stroll, it's about maturing. I feel that Lance needs to mature. I'm only guessing, right? And hopefully Lawrence Stroll, if you're watching, hopefully you might even agree with this. If you're a kid who's perhaps come from a privileged background, it must be quite hard to be a dad of that kid and to bring them up to have that kind of maturity, work ethic, responsibility. It's obviously difficult, and it probably comes a little bit later because they have a bit of Peter Pan syndrome, I would guess. And I think Lance Stroll, he does have to put up with a lot of negativity every day, every time he opens his social media. The only thing that's going to shut everyone up is Lance Stroll getting on the podium. And I think that maturity, if he can master that maturity, just let his driving do the talking, not necessarily be rude to the press, play the game, and just let his driving do the talking in an Adrian Newey car, get podiums. And I think that will quieten people down. pass people on the track. Like, show us. I have seen Lance Stroll do some pretty amazing things in the wet. He's a great wet weather driver. But the only way he's going to like sit people down is results. And I hope he can do it. But I think he just needs to mature a little bit. And maybe going into 2026, maybe he will. Maybe you will. Motorsport fan says, I'm not a big fan of Lance, but I do feel curious. What are the F1 fans' reactions when he somehow gets his first ever win? Exactly. They're going to say, and the thing he's got, right, if he wins in Newey's Aston Martin in 26, they're going to give all the credit to Adrian Newey, right? They are. They're going to go, wow, Stroll's been terrible in the 25 car. They're going to give it all to Adrian Newey. But if he beats Alonso... If you beat Fernando Alonso, then it's different, I think. Yeah, DT says I'd be happy for him. Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I love a redemption story. You know, I do. I know. Imagine Stroll World Drivers Champion, exactly. But what? Like, I love a redemption story. Like, if somebody's alienated the press, people don't like him. He's put it in the wall too much. He's got a frosty attitude. He doesn't talk to the press. But then we see him bloom into a well-rounded human being and a brilliant driver, and then win the World Drivers' Championship. And then he then carries on, you know. And if Fernando retires, he carries on at Aston Martin for a couple of seasons, being competitive, and then one day takes over the whole empire from his dad, and becomes a figure in Formula. Because that is his path, right? Like, the path in front of Stroll, should he choose to accept it, is, well, when he starts driving, he can become eventually the chairman of Aston Martin, running race teams. Like, he's got this amazing path in front of him, an opportunity. If he's responsible enough, educated enough, humble enough, maybe, and hardworking enough, it's all there for him, right? Why not? Stroll dominance could bore fans. Yeah. If he maybe he'd open up, maybe become different. DT said 20 years from now we're going to be talking about Stroll like we do with Max. Yeah. Well, yeah, it could be. Stroll World Driver Champion before Russell Leclerc. Wow. It is possible. David Croft said Stroll has more ambition than addition. Talking about him crashing by himself. We would call that sometimes he's got more balls than brains. You need to be brave to be an F1 driver, but you've got to, Senna was brave, right? Like, Schumacher was brave, Verstappen's brave, but that bravity is also very close to aggression, edge of what's maybe even fair. But all the top drivers seem to have it. You've got the drivers like Alain Prost, right? Who was the professor. And he was more like a Niki Lauda, where everything is almost like mathematical with those guys. They knew... It was almost like a computer game with those guys. Or like a mathematical way of driving. Whereas Senna, Schumacher... Well, maybe Schumacher to an extent, but Senna, it was passion. It was just how the hell. It was almost like the laws of maths don't work. That should not have stuck on that corner. How did he do that? You are literally bending the rules of physics. And some drivers have that ability. And Senna, for me, was obviously one of those drivers. I'm going to go back to the chat. Motorsport fan says, if Aston Martin does have a really fast car in 26, Alonso will win numerous of them. Stroll's podium is a possibility. Maybe a surprise winner. No, that's what I think. This is my honest prediction about that. I think Fernando Alonso, we're talking 10 podiums, multiple wins, I think. And I think Lance Stroll could get 5 podiums. And one of them or 2 of them could be a win. I do think so. I think that, and what would it do for him if he got a win, right? As a driver, would that suddenly make, because all the negativity he gets, do you think he believes he can be the World Driver Champion? Think he does? Everything about it is like, you're only here because of your dad. So if he does become champion of the world, fair play. So Will thinks Fernando 3rd. Who do you think is going to win next year? Who do you think is going to win the WDC 2026. Answers on a postcard. No, J, probably a small percentage of people that didn't like Senna. Did you not like his attitude, or you didn't like the way he drove? Because I know a lot of people that maybe Senna's personality would rub them up the wrong way, but what he could do in a race car, I think, is just undeniable, right? Kyle says, don't get me wrong, Stroll winning would be the most entertaining story ever. Yeah, I've gone for days. Motorsport fan says, that would be the best scene I'd witness as a huge Alonso fan since I started watching sport back in the 2000s. Yeah, I think it'd be good. My bet is on Fernando, honestly. Like, not even joking. That's my bet. My bet in 26. And I think we'd get pretty decent odds today. I think Alonso is going to be... I think I'm a bit of a romantic. He's 45 years old. He's going to win a World Driver Championship. I think it'll be the last time that's ever done by someone in their 40s. Maybe Hamilton, possibly. But 45 years old, Adrian Newey car, first year of a new regs. I think Newey's going to get it right. I do. I just think out of all of the teams on the grid, Adrian Newey's most likely, if you're going to put money on it, to get that car right. Brand new regulation changes from Melbourne. And I think Fernando Alonso has got the goods, even if he'll be 45 next year, and I think he can win a World Drivers' Championship. That's what I think. Yeah, so no, so you didn't like the way he drove. What was it? Do you think he was unfair? Too aggressive? Or are you talking about the Monaco race where he was literally like all he wanted to do was lap Alain Prost, his teammate, because they'd fallen out, and he was literally, how many seconds ahead was he? I want to say like 60 seconds ahead at Monaco, and he was gunning it to try. He was going to win the Grand Prix by a country mile, but he wanted to catch Prost. Kept on pushing, put fastest lap, and then put it in the wall. That, I mean, he learned a lot from that. See, the thing is with Senna, no Jays, he matured as a driver. He matured as a driver, obviously, as he got older. And he was less impulsive. But that arrogance and that, like, ruthlessness of wanting to punish the other drivers was what drove him forward, I think. I mean, Senna, look, I'm a fan, but Senna's my all-time favourite driver. So I'm not saying look, he's my all-time favourite driver. But you got to look at results. Say but to argue who was the best driver that ever existed in Formula One, well, that's a whole different discussion. Senna's just my all-time favourite driver. Yeah. So Crackite, would Stroll be able to cope with the pressure that comes leading the World WDC? Alonso's been there and done it. I think Lance Stroll would be like, holy shit, what is going on? And the problem and here's the thing, if Stroll was leading the WDC, he's going to get a lot more shit from the press than anybody else in the entire field. They're going to say he doesn't deserve it. It's Adrian Newey's car. How's this happening? Is he cheating? But if Fernando Alonso is leading the World Driver Championship, he's going to get a ton of support from the press. You know, it's going to be completely different. So Lance Stroll, if he was leading the WDC next year, just look at the way the press are going to torture him. They will torture him. So it's going to be harder for him to stay calm, cool, and collected if he is. So that's what I think. DT, Tony, fun fact. There is a lightning fixture manufacturer called Ayrton, and all their fixture named after motorsports references, mostly cars. But a couple of driver references. Is that true? I love that. I wonder who owns that company. And I wonder if he watches F1 Grandstand. I hope he does. Or maybe one day he will. We are growing at a phenomenal rate. Hopefully he will do soon. Kyle says, Crack, I think Stroll must have thick skin to keep racing. He can probably handle the pressure. See, that's the thing, Kyle. Like, we have to take on board that he is building up a rhino skin with over the last few years of what he's had to put up with from the press. Every time he turns up to the racetrack. Can you imagine what people are saying to him? Fans shouting at him, the way he's treated, and he still turns up. He doesn't have to. He doesn't need the money. He could go and race somewhere else in a different series. You know, he could race and do anything. The family of billionaires, right? But he's in Formula One. He's sticking with it. He's developing a rhino skin, and you don't know, diamonds are made out of pressure, and I don't think anyone's getting more pressure about their career than Lance Stroll. Motorsport fan says, I hope not. In my opinion, the game change for AM in 2026 are Adrian Newey and Andy Cowell's leadership, also the Honda power unit, and Aramco being the supplier of the sustainable fuel. Well, you know what? Aramco are their sponsor till 2028. Aramco really, their names across the top as well, right? But they're putting money into that team till 2028, and honestly, and beyond, if that's the case, because oil money, it never ends, does it? It just never ends. Oil money never ends. They've got Valvoline actually as well, haven't they? They're a sponsor now, Aston Martin. It's a French company. They have a fixture called Nando 502. I think you can decide what that's named after. Brilliant. That's really good. So it is a very interesting time to be an Aston Martin fan, to be an Aston Martin employee. And even more so to be Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. As much as they'll be happy to put this year behind them, they're going to be getting excited for 2026. Hell, I'm excited for 2026. It's a good one, and all the little tidbits that are coming out from Newey. It's the way he's talking, and if you've followed Adrian Newey's career from the 90s, he has a little glint in his eye when he knows something. And I think Damon Hill's absolutely right. He knows Adrian Newey has cracked it. He's onto something, but he is just not giving it away. Which is why when interviewers talk to him, he'll divert the conversation into another direction. He doesn't want to be quizzed on what he's doing. He doesn't want to be quizzed on. He doesn't want too much intrusion. He doesn't want the magnifying glass on what they're doing, because if he's found the edge, he does not want to give any indication to any other team. And I'm here for it. So yeah, here it is. Aston Martin 2026 Rocketship. I do believe. Please do a massive favour. Don't forget to hit a thumbs up on the video. It makes a huge difference to the success of the channel. And if you haven't hit the bell button yet, go and do it right now, because then you'll get notified for the live streams. Make sure you do that for me. Thanking you very much. I'm going to do one more. Going to the chat. Motorsport fan says some F1 trivia. In the history of Aston Martin, Force India, Racing Point, Jordan F1 Team Midland, name 5 drivers who have driven for at least of these times. Oh God. Name 5 drivers who have driven for at least one of. Well, I mean, you got Sergio Perez. I don't know. Oh, good. I'm glad you're still there, Will. Good stuff. Oh, who competed under this team? Oh, as the same team. Okay, well, Force India, didn't we have Checo? Didn't he? I think he raced Force India, didn't he? Obviously, Jordan, Fisichella, Damon Hill, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Michael Schumacher is a great one. He did a race for... I love the Schumacher story. I'll just quickly tell you this. Eddie Jordan... and here's a true story, right? Eddie Jordan... I'm not going to tell the whole story now. I spent some time with Eddie Jordan a few years back. Loveliest guy on the planet. And we were all, it was a big group of us, and we spent a few days together, and I got to chat to him quite a bit. And he told me the Michael Schumacher story. He said, can you believe it? He goes, I give this unknown driver a drive. And he said he was filling in, it might even be filling in for Fisichella or something in the Jordan. He has a great race. I think he finished like P4 or 5 in the Jordan, which was pretty good. And he's like, right, I'm going to sign Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher agrees to sign with Eddie Jordan. And then Flavio Briatore, who was running the Benetton team at the time, swoops in and gives Schumacher a 2-year deal. Yeah, gives him a 2-year deal and took Michael Schumacher away from the Jordan team after one race. True story. True story. Yes, Will. Schumacher won his first championship with Benetton, and that's how he became a Benetton driver. But yeah, I heard it from the horse's mouth. But there you go. But one day we'll go into some Eddie Jordan stories because I've got some good ones. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for hitting the like on the video. Thank you for hitting the bell so you can keep up to date. I'll be back tomorrow because I'm just checking my days. Yeah, it is. Tomorrow, baby, it's Friday. We're going back to F1 Friday Night Live tomorrow night, 7:30. You do love an F1 Friday Night Live, don't you? It's when we have a look at all the stories from this week. We chuck them all in. It's a bit more relaxed, a bit of a free-for-all. We're going to chit-chat, grab yourself a beer, get a glass of wine. So we'll do that tomorrow night, 7:30. Thank you so much, Will. Thank you so much, Motorsport Fan. Thank you. Oh yeah, John O'Trully, John O'Lacey, good ones. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, DT. No, Sir Jay, good to have you with us again. Gemma, as always, Crackite. Great chat tonight. You've all been bloody brilliant. I'll see you tomorrow for F1 Friday Night Live at 7:30, unless any breaking news, and you'll see me earlier in the day tomorrow. All right, enjoy the rest of your evening. Ta-ta.